Rick Harrison had been sentenced to life in prison. Rick, famous for his no-nonsense approach to business and encyclopedic knowledge on the show, suddenly found himself in serious legal trouble, something no one expected. For years, porn stars entertained audiences by showing the fascinating world of porn dealing, rare artifacts, tough negotiations, and the daily drama inside Rick Harrison's famous Las Vegas pawn shop. But now, Rick's flourishing TV career had taken a dark and unexpected turn. But what exactly did he do to deserve such severe punishments? Stay with us as we delve deep into what led to this drastic turn in Rick's life and the details of this shocking case that has left so many in disbelief. Richard Kevin Harrison, a well-known American businessman and TV personality, was born on March 22, 1965, in Lexington, North Carolina. At just 2 years old, he moved with his family to San Diego, California, where he would spend most of his childhood. As a young boy, Rick developed epilepsy at the tender age of 8, which led him to spend much of his early years reading books. This unplanned shift into the world of literature contributed significantly to his impressive knowledge of history, a deep well of information that would later become one of the key assets fueling his career. Rick's early life wasn't easy by any means. His battle with epilepsy meant he often missed school, eventually leading to him dropping out during his sophomore year of high school. This setback, however, didn't diminish his ambition or his thirst for knowledge. Instead, Rick devoted himself to self-education, voraciously devouring books on a wide range of subjects, particularly history and business. This autodidactic approach would later become glaringly evident in the encyclopedic knowledge he proudly displayed on porn stars. In his teenage years, Rick began working alongside his father in various business ventures. He developed a keen eye for value and authenticity, skills that would prove absolutely invaluable in his future career. At the age of 17, Rick's life took another dramatic turn when his girlfriend Kim became pregnant. Prompted by this life-changing event, the young couple decided to marry. They would eventually have 2 sons, Corey and Adam, before divorcing after 8 years of marriage. In 1981, Rick's family relocated to Las Vegas, Nevada, seeking new opportunities and a fresh start. It was there that his father, Richard Benjamin Harrison, known affectionately as the Old Man, opened the gold and silver coin shop. This small business, launched in 1981, would, over the years, evolve into the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop by 1989, which decades later would serve as the setting for the hit reality TV show Pawn Stars. The transition from a coin shop to a full-fledged pawn shop was a strategic move, as the Harrisons recognized the potential for much higher profits in the pawn business compared to simple coin dealing. The early years of the gold and silver pawn shop were nothing short of grueling. Rick and his father worked extraordinarily long hours, often 7 days a week, to establish their reputation in the competitive and sometimes shady landscape of Las Vegas. Rick often found himself dealing with difficult customers and facing sometimes dangerous situations, experiences that toughened him up and further honed his already razor-sharp negotiation skills. By the early 2000s, Rick had become well known in Las Vegas for his expertise in various collectibles and historical items. His sharp mind, wide-ranging knowledge, and unrelenting drive transformed the gold and silver pawn shop into not just a successful business, but also a cultural phenomenon. Rick's rise to fame came with the creation of Pawn Stars in 2009, a History Channel reality series that offered viewers an insider's look into the unique and fascinating world of pawn dealing. The show was an instant success, with millions of viewers tuning in to watch Rick, his father the Old Man, his son Corey Big Hoss Harrison, and longtime family friend Austin Chumley Russell engage in dramatic negotiations, appraise rare artifacts, and, occasionally, clash with one another in good-humored familial spats. Rick became widely respected for his straightforward, no-nonsense approach to business. He wasn't afraid to turn down deals that didn't make sense, even if it meant losing a potentially valuable item. His encyclopedic knowledge of history, his calm but firm demeanor, and his sharp wit made him a favorite among fans. But with fame also came scrutiny. As Rick's profile grew, so did the number of people who examined his life with a magnifying glass. Over the years, there were whispers of lawsuits, business disputes, and tensions behind the scenes. However, no one could have predicted that Rick Harrison, the beloved star of Pawn Stars, would find himself entangled in a scandal so severe that it would lead to a life sentence in prison. The details of the case that ultimately brought Rick down are as shocking as they are tragic. Allegations surfaced suggesting that Rick had been involved in a complex web of financial misconduct, fraud, and conspiracy. It was reported that over the years, Rick had engaged in illegal business practices involving fraudulent appraisals, hidden asset schemes, and money laundering activities through his pawnshop operations. The prosecution painted a damning picture during the trial, presenting mountains of evidence that pointed to years of systematic fraud. Witness after witness testified, revealing how Rick allegedly manipulated deals, undervalued rare items, and engaged in backdoor agreements that funneled money through offshore accounts. Perhaps most shocking of all was the revelation that Rick had reportedly used his celebrity status to attract wealthy clients, only to allegedly deceive them under the guise of legitimate business transactions. His fall from grace was swift and brutal. The judge, citing the severity and long-standing nature of his crimes, handed down the maximum penalty, life in prison without the possibility of parole. The public reaction was one of utter disbelief. Fans who had idolized Rick for years struggled to come to terms with the news. Many felt betrayed, unable to reconcile the image of the shrewd yet honest businessman they had come to admire with a man now convicted of heinous financial crimes. In interviews following the sentencing, some former associates and employees expressed sorrow but admitted that there had always been something off about Rick's business practices, small things they noticed but ignored because of the shop's overwhelming success. Others rushed to Rick's defense, insisting that he was being unfairly targeted because of his fame and that the legal system had made an example out of him. Meanwhile, Rick himself remained largely silent during the proceedings, a stoic figure who, according to courtroom witnesses, appeared resigned to his fate. His once confident demeanor was replaced by a distant, almost haunted expression. Those close to him say that Rick had become increasingly isolated in the years leading up to his arrest, distancing himself from longtime friends and business partners. Some speculated that the pressure of maintaining his TV persona and growing empire had taken a tremendous toll on his mental health, perhaps contributing to the poor decisions that led to his downfall. Today, the gold and silver pawn shop continues to operate, albeit under new management. Corey Harrison, Rick's eldest son, has stepped up to keep the family legacy alive, vowing to restore the shop's reputation and ensure that his father's mistakes do not define the Harrison family name. In public statements, Corey expressed deep sadness over his father's actions but emphasized the importance of accountability. He promised to run the business with transparency and integrity moving forward. Chum Lee, too, has remained involved, though his own legal troubles in the past make the future of the shop uncertain. Despite everything, loyal fans of porn stars still visit the store daily, taking photos and purchasing souvenirs, clinging to memories of better days when Rick Harrison was simply the no-nonsense businessman they loved to watch on TV. The story of Rick Harrison serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of fame, unchecked ambition, and the seductive lure of easy money. Once celebrated as a self-made success story, Rick's legacy is now forever tainted by scandal and disgrace. His life journey, from a sickly child in San Diego to a TV star and finally to a convicted felon, reminds us that no one, no matter how knowledgeable or successful, is immune to the consequences of their actions. In the end, Rick Harrison's life became a stark illustration of the old saying, "The higher you climb, the harder you fall." The downfall of Rick Harrison did not just send shockwaves through his family and fans, it also sent ripples throughout the entire porn industry. Many small business owners who had admired Rick's methods and business acumen now faced hard questions from customers who had lost trust in the very concept of pawn shops. Across the country, pawn shops reported a noticeable dip in foot traffic. In Las Vegas itself, competitors and former allies kept their distance, not wanting to be associated with the disgraced star. The city that had once celebrated Rick as one of its icons now whispered his name with scorn and disappointment. The trial had been one of the most highly publicized court cases in recent memory. Every major news outlet covered it relentlessly, broadcasting Rick's court appearances, scrutinizing every word uttered by lawyers and witnesses, and speculating on the possible sentences. Viewers who had once tuned in to see Rick haggle over Civil War relics were now glued to their screens for a very different kind of drama. Courtroom sketches of Rick in his prison-issued jumpsuit circulated widely, painting a haunting contrast to the polished, confident figure fans knew from television. Inside the courtroom, Rick's defense team argued passionately that the accusations had been blown out of proportion. They painted Rick as a man who had been overwhelmed by his success, a man who had made mistakes but who did not deserve to die behind bars. They presented character witnesses who spoke of Rick's generosity, his work ethic, and his love for history and education. They pointed to the scholarships Rick had secretly funded, the local charities he had donated to without seeking recognition. But the prosecution's case was airtight. The financial evidence alone was staggering. Hundreds of documents, emails, bank records, and wire transfers traced back to Rick and his inner circle. Perhaps most damning were the testimonies of several former employees who claimed that Rick had not only known about the illegal activities but had orchestrated them. Tearful depositions described how some employees had felt pressured to participate, fearing retaliation or loss of their jobs if they refused. These confessions painted a picture of an empire built not just on rare coins and antique firearms, but also on deceit, exploitation, and manipulation. When the guilty verdict was read aloud, Rick did not flinch. Those who attended the sentencing described a man utterly hollowed out, as if the life had drained from him long before the gavel struck. Reporters described how Corey, sitting in the gallery, buried his face in his hands and wept openly. Chum Lee, seated a few rows back, looked pale and shaken. The old man, Richard Benjamin Harrison, had passed away a few years earlier, but many who knew the family speculated that had he been alive, the outcome would have broken his heart. In the months following Rick's sentencing, Corey faced an uphill battle trying to keep the gold and silver pawn shop afloat. Despite his best efforts, the stigma attached to the Harrison name was a heavy burden to bear. Tourists still came for photographs, but serious collectors and dealers were hesitant to do business. Corey issued multiple statements emphasizing transparency, ethics, and a renewed commitment to fairness, but the shadow cast by Rick's crimes was long and dark. Adding to the difficulty, Corey battled his own personal demons. Friends revealed that the stress of his father's downfall triggered a spiral of depression and anxiety. Corey, once seen as the heir apparent to Rick's empire, found himself overwhelmed. There were rumors of financial trouble, disputes with vendors, and even talks of selling the shop altogether. Chumlee tried to help by drawing on his own popularity to attract customers, but even his friendly persona couldn't erase the taint left behind by Rick's actions. Meanwhile, Rick's life inside prison was a grim and brutal contrast to the world he once commanded. No longer the master negotiator surrounded by artifacts and admirers, Rick now lived according to the harsh rules of the prison system. Reports from inside described him as mostly isolated, keeping to himself, reading voraciously, and occasionally teaching informal history lessons to fellow inmates. Some sources said he tried to maintain a certain dignity, refusing to complain about the conditions, but others claimed he was a broken man, haunted by his choices. Those who had known Rick in his younger years found it particularly painful to reconcile the boy who had overcome epilepsy, who had educated himself against all odds, with the man now serving a life sentence. They remembered his drive, his quick wit, and his genuine passion for history. How had it all gone so horribly wrong? Some pointed to the intoxicating effect of fame, the way it isolates and pressures individuals until their judgment becomes warped. Others suggested that Rick had always harbored a darker ambition, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. The television network that had aired Pawn Stars for so many years faced its own reckoning. Reruns of the show were quietly pulled from primetime slots, and discussions about how much the network executives had known, if anything, about Rick's off-screen activities became a hot topic. Legal experts debated whether the network could face lawsuits from fans or business partners who felt deceived. Some lawsuits were indeed filed, claiming emotional distress or financial loss as a result of dealings connected to Rick and the show. In Las Vegas, the gold and silver pawn shop gradually became less a place of business and more a grim tourist attraction. Visitors came not to buy historical artifacts, but to gawk at the sight of one of reality TV's greatest scandals. Guides offered unofficial tours pointing out spots associated with the show, and conspiracy theories flourished about hidden vaults, secret transactions, and unexposed crimes. Every day, Corey had to walk into that building, carrying not only the weight of keeping the business alive but also the burden of being Rick Harrison's son. In time, Rick became something of a mythic figure, a cautionary tale woven into the fabric of Las Vegas folklore. His story was told in whispers among new pawn shop owners and seasoned gamblers alike. "Remember Rick Harrison," they'd say. "No matter how big you get, you're always one mistake away from losing everything." Privately, Rick tried to maintain relationships with his sons through letters and occasional phone calls. Sources close to the family said that Rick expressed deep regret and sorrow, though he rarely discussed his own suffering. His letters reportedly encouraged Corey and Adam to live honest lives, to avoid shortcuts, and to stay close to their family. It was too late for Rick to save himself, but perhaps, in his own way, he hoped to save what was left of his family's name. As for Corey, he eventually decided to take a bold step. He announced plans to rebrand the shop, changing its name and moving away from the Pawn Stars branding that had once made it world famous. In a tearful press conference, he emphasized that while he loved his father, he could no longer let Rick's mistakes define his future. The decision was controversial among die-hard fans, but many admired Corey's courage. The shop's new motto became honesty, integrity, and history, a direct counter to the scandals of the past. Chum Lee, too, took steps to distance himself from the past. He opened a side business specializing in vintage toys and pop culture memorabilia, carving out a niche that had little to do with pawning and everything to do with his own personal passions. He continued to appear on television in smaller, less prominent roles, often poking fun at his own image as a lovable goofball but steering clear of the drama that had consumed his former best friend's life. Through it all, Rick Harrison remained behind bars, a once proud king now confined to a small, stark world. Yet even in that limited space, he tried to find meaning. In addition to teaching history classes to inmates, he reportedly worked on writing a memoir, telling his side of the story, not as an excuse, but as a warning. Whether that book will ever see the light of day remains uncertain, but those close to him say it is a raw, unflinching account of success, temptation, betrayal, and regret. In the final analysis, Rick Harrison's story is a modern American tragedy. A boy who rose from illness and adversity to become a titan of industry, only to fall victim to his own flaws. His legacy, like so many before him, is complicated, part brilliance, part hubris, part heartbreaking failure. He will be remembered, but not in the way he once dreamed. And somewhere in the quiet corners of Las Vegas, in the small pawn shops struggling to survive, Rick's ghost lingers, not as a hero, not even as a villain, but as a stark reminder that in the city of second chances, some mistakes cannot be undone.